Welcome everyone, it's time for my first ever BattleRise strategy guide. And today we are going to look at one of my favorite early game characters, Honnari. I think this character is absolutely critical for early to mid game players. A great character to focus on starting out, pairs well with so many others. And most importantly, is a very strong counter to some of the most difficult dungeons you are going to see early and mid game. Some of these dungeons with these skeletal knights here, these can cause a lot of problems, including one of the toughest bosses, Baron Tarquin in the game, which is a bunch of these skeleton knights, because some of you, when you come up against them, will look like this. This was me on the stream a few weeks ago, just getting absolutely smashed by these skeletons that gain rush meter every time they take damage, or have a high chance to gain a lot of rush meter, and they just take turn after turn after turn after turn. We've sped this up here, but you get the point. They can just dominate you. Honnari is a counter to that. So let's kind of break her down a little bit. Let's take a look at what we have here. So first, let's just start off with our basic skills here. Okay, we'll look at the basic ability. Enticing Flame deals magic ablaze. Any opponent possessing Ablaze adds 10% damage to her attack. You're not going to use this a lot. We're going to see what Ablaze does here in just a second. All right, one of the reasons she's a very good character here, Allure the Timid, deals magic damage to all enemies and applies taunt for 2 turns. So we have a 2-turn taunt, and you'll see up here that has a cooldown of 1. That means you can use this ability every single time. As long as you're not ability blocked or something like that, or had your cooldowns increased, you can, in normal circumstances, you can use this taunt every single time to consistently keep taunt up. Makes her a very, very good tank. Oh, and then she has this passive. If she dies while having taunt, which we've established that she has all the time, she is immediately resurrected with 50% HP. And then when she gets another turn, she can taunt again. So it is very easy to keep this taunt up, and she keeps coming back over and over and over again. Pair it with there's all sorts of different buffs you can pair that with to make it even more powerful. You can see how this is a very good tank, a very good character, but it's not just about her being a good tank. This lead ability is very, very nice. Tempting Brand. If an ally performs a basic attack, then Honnari imposes an additional ablaze on that target for 1 turn. Over on the right here, you can see what ablaze does. I told you we'd get to that. Enemy can't assist or gain bonus rush meter and lose 10% HP by turn. Second hit with a blaze makes it last longer. So what's the problem with those skeletons that we saw just a little bit ago? They gain lots of rush meter. You can apply a blaze to all of them, and then they will not gain any rush meter. This works very, very well against teams that assist or teams that gain bonus rush meter. Worked extremely well in PvP. There's a lot of PvE teams that you'll face that this can work pretty well with as well. And one of the nice things about it, when you're early game, you don't necessarily have access to a lot of characters, right? This is any ally. It does not have to be any certain class, any sort of faction. Doesn't matter. This works for all allies. So you can have a hodgepodge of teams that you can run with, that you can go make this work. So let's go see it in action. We're gonna see it a couple times here. First, let's start off with an early game with a hodgepodge of characters here, and we can see exactly what this looks like. All right, so here we've got 4 of these annoying skeletons, and the strategy is pretty simple. We're going to use basics on as many of them as possible to set up a blaze. So here you go. We've already got it set up. 4 ablazes on all of them, and now they're not much of a threat. And you will sometimes you will give them turns while you're getting that set up, depending on the exact makeup of your build. Sometimes you can throw some AoEs in there. Like I've got an AoE ability block you'll see later that sometimes I like to start off with. So when they take their first turn, they're just using basics and not their AoEs. But once you get them under control, they are very little threat. You can usually then, if you've got a higher damage threat, you can move over and take that out first and kind of ignore the skeletons if you want, or you can take them out one at a time, whatever the case is. But generally, when there's a bunch of them, there's not a lot of damage if they're not taking a lot of turns. So you get those ablaze, it's simple. Get the ablaze up, and you're good. Then you can go about your battle in a normal way regardless of what you have. So you don't need a special team. You can run it with a hodgepodge of characters as you saw there. All right, here we see it at a higher level. This is kind of back where the first video where I lost on one of those, to show you that it's an early game strategy. It's also a mid game strategy as you get to some of the harder dungeons in the game. This is after I was playing a month or so, harder teams. I've got a better team built around this, right? I've got a lot more synergy. This is my undead team, or my void lords undead team, where I have a combination of void lords and undead that I'll throw in there. And I just took the same team that I had, replaced it with Honnari. This is basically my arena team. Replaced it with Honnari Lead, and we're doing the exact same setup. We're trying to get basics on those skeletons so they don't cause problems, and then we're good. So one thing I will say is that not only do you want to use basics when you apply that ablaze, but you do also want to try to use basics when you are taking them out as well. If you use an AoE, like right there, guess what? See that skeleton came back and he had the turn meter gain. Because he gets that rush meter gain. You gotta call it rush meter instead of turn meter. Gets that rush meter gain even from the AoE hits while he was dead and doesn't have that ablaze on him. So do keep that in mind. A lot of times it's not a big deal if they take one turn most of the time, right? But if you're in a battle where it's tough and you need every little advantage you can get, that is one tip. Try to take them out with single target attacks, and then when they res, if you're in a spot where they res, whether it's because of a teammate or the dungeon ability, they won't come back. Or they won't come back with that rush meter. All right, on to Baron Tarquin, one of the tougher bosses, and this was a perfect example that we're going to showcase a lot of different things here. So first off, you're going to see what the issue is. We use an attack. All 5 of them get to go. Individually, they don't do a lot of damage, but when they're getting turns over and over and over again, and there's 5 of them, the damage adds up significantly. But once we can get these ablaze set everywhere, it changes. Once they're not taking all these turns, they're not near as big of a threat. Now, another thing here. Honnari just died. Pay attention to what happens after Honnari dies, because the ablaze still works if it's up. But here you're going to see that it is no longer reapplied. So all of the blazes you've already got set up there will be good, but you can't go adding them on because Honnari is actually the one that applies it. If she's not there, she can't apply it. You saw a basic right there. Didn't work. Didn't put the ablaze on him, but that's okay. We still had 3 ablazes up. That was enough. You don't even have to get them all up all the time. We had somebody behind stealth back there. That's okay. That is enough for us to really change the battle, change how it works. This boss, if you're not using Honnari Lead, if you're not stopping, if you don't have a way to stop that rush meter gain, this boss is just insane and will destroy you very, very quickly. This one right here is a level 7 dungeon. This Baron can pop up across all the dungeons I've seen so far. There's an option. Usually I used to completely avoid him. Now I can get the better rewards once I really figured out how to beat him. This Honnari Lead works very, very well. So if I don't need a special setup to beat the dungeon that I'm on, just the general dungeon, I go with my Honnari Lead so I can pick up these bonus rewards here. All right, so let's go beyond the gameplay and take a look at some other ways to maximize this strategy. First thing we need to look at is artifacts. How do we modify the stats of Honnari in order to take advantage of this strategy? And the basic strategy I think is pretty straightforward. You want health, because she's a tank, so health makes sense, right? And speed, because we want her to be able to take turns over and over again to make sure she is keeping that taunt up. If somebody spells it, we want her to get her turn back. If she dies and loses taunt, Comes back without taunt. We want her to take her turn quick so she can get that taunt back up again. So we like health and speed, and the best ways to get health and speed are these coward artifacts. Lots of health, lots of speed. Doesn't have to. There's ones besides the epic. You lose damage though, but that's okay. A lot of times when I'm using her, I'm not trying to get damage out of her. I'm wanting her to be a tank. So we're good with the health and the speed, and we just kind of punt damage and maximize that. Now, I do think there is a good strategy where you can get a lot of damage out of her, because she does, and this is a magic damage, AoE magic damage at 100% of her damage. Can be a powerful attack. So, and remember, because she can res all the time, she doesn't need a lot of health. Having the health can be nice, but sacrificing health for damage, I think, can be a very valid strategy, which is what you can use something like this here. It's kind of weird that I've got a mix of them, but I wanted to show you guys some of the artifacts here. Like this right here has damage and speed, and that can be a good combo as well. Sometimes having low health can actually be beneficial, because there can be some perks to dying frequently. For example, there is a dungeon modifier where enemies lose 40% rush meter whenever there is any death. Well, if she keeps dying, she keeps taking the rush meter from the other side. Now that strategy I think is a lot riskier, because the easier she dies, the easier it is for her to die without taunt, where she doesn't come back. So obviously you want her to only be defeated when she has taunt on her, but you can definitely sneak in some extra damage, and that strategy can work there. So let's go look at some other modifiers we can potentially use. All right, I'm not going to go over all of these here, but there's one here in the Shrine of Anu that you must know about that makes this strategy just ridiculous here. And that is the middle ability, the Glaring Glow. Owner gets taunt at the beginning of the battle. Each time any ally gets taunt, he receives plus 50 rush meter. Okay, we don't necessarily care about that part. I want you to watch in this battle what happens, because we've applied that buff. When Honnari comes back, she also has taunt. These abilities don't just apply at the beginning of the battle. They apply after a hero, after a champion is resurrected. So she keeps taunt. She has taunt. She can give herself a taunt every time she takes a turn. She starts the battle with taunt, and when she dies with taunt, she's resurrected and comes back with taunt. That ability is extremely powerful. Oh, and guess what? You can use that for other things as well, because it's not just the taunt. You can see other buffs being reapplied to the entire team. There's lots of synergies there. For example, we have some modifiers where every time a champion gets a buff, they gain extra health. Well, you can give them more buffs this way. I mean, just reapplying buffs is good, right? You can get extra assists with all the buffs. You can get extra riposte with all the buffs. There are so many synergies there that you guys can take advantage of. So if you've just started playing the game and you want to know what's a champion that you should work on farming, that you should try to get early in the game, that's not only useful early in the game, but useful mid-game, useful later in the game, Honnari is outstanding. Works very well, works with the mismatched teams, works with synergized teams, works on various different dungeons, one of the toughest dungeon bosses out there. Go get Honnari, and hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the sub button, turn your notifications on. I want to do more videos like this, not just for Honnari, for all of the champions that we have, at least all the ones that I like, that I recommend you use, that we've got strategies on. Strategies for this is a strategy game, right? There's a lot of things to do. Let me know down below in the comments what else you want me to cover. What else do you want me to make videos on? I want to make videos that you guys want to watch, so I need you to let me know what those are. And come visit the live streams, of course. We're going to be streaming this game a little bit. I'm loving it. I'm addicted. I'll see you in game.